Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. Even though Marvel Spider-Man 2 has officially been out for a handful of weeks now, we actually have some pretty recent news to talk about in regards to the game, including a recent interview with members of the narrative and story team over at Insomniac that caused quite a conversation within the community, and a brand new gameplay update that actually included a ton of bug fixes and patches. And today we are going to break down all of that for you. But first, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that, just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It'll notify you every single time that Andreas and I upload. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into all of the brand new information to break down for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Alright guys, so the first place that I want to start is with the most recent development for Spider-Man 2, and that is the brand new gameplay update that was released early on Wednesday morning. This is patch version 1.001.005. I will have the patch notes up on the screen if you guys want to take a look, and if you want to take a look for yourselves, you guys can find this on Insomniac Games' official Twitter account and on the support website for Insomniac Games. And guys, I gotta say, I was pretty surprised by how comprehensive these patch notes were and how many fixes were going to be included in version 1.001.005. It really looks like Insomniac has taken charge to fix a lot of the quality of life improvements that players have been looking for, and a lot of the bugs that have been frustrating people. I know some people have run into a lot of bugs and issues throughout their gameplay for Spider-Man 2. We were fortunate enough, both Andreas and I, to not really have any major bugs or crashes or anything with this game. I think the only thing that we ended up getting was an instance of the spider cube, but we really never had anything game breaking along the way. But it is really nice to see that Insomniac has already released multiple gameplay updates since this game has released, and from these patch notes, you can tell that they are dead set on getting this game fixed and getting rid of as many bugs as possible as fast as possible. So definitely appreciate Insomniac taking the charge over the past few weeks to get these issues resolved. And I gotta say, like, these are a lot of changes, so great job on Insomniac for getting this done as quickly as they are getting. Now, the main thing that I really want to talk about in this video is this recent interview that went down with Gizmodo.com. The article is titled "Spider-Man 2's Writers Break Down the Game's Big Spoilers," and this is an interview with Insomniac Games, Brittany Morris, and Ben Arfman. And this interview is pretty comprehensive. It's pretty lengthy, so if you guys want to see the whole interview and read it for yourselves, definitely go check it out on Gizmodo's website. But I want to hone in on actually a few specific paragraphs within this interview that has a lot of people in the community talking over the past week since this interview really hit the mainstream. And the first thing I want to talk about is this question where it says, usually with Venom, Carnage doesn't take too long to follow behind him, but it was surprising to see him set up through side missions via the Flame quest chain rather than the main story. And Morris responds with, "For this game, our priorities were mainly on Pete and Miles, making sure to showcase them as developing heroes from beginning to end, and also doing a Venom story in our own way. We also had a number of villains that deserved their own time on screen, and we didn't just want to make them one-dimensional. We really wanted to give them motivations and desires. To do all of that in a way that's meaningful and a good experience for players, you need time." And then Arfman chimes in by saying, like we were saying early on, we knew that we wanted to tell a great Venom story. Anything that would distract from that wasn't on brand, but at the same time, we are huge fans of Carnage and Cletus Cassidy. We didn't want to shortchange that story by not giving it full service. At least in this game, we got to introduce our version of Cletus and also do some work on the relationship between Peter and Yuri, who's now become Wraith. If we're gonna dive into that Carnage storyline, we want to make sure to really give it everything that it deserves. I gotta say, this is some very interesting information from Insomniac, some very interesting answers provided on Carnage, because it's clear from the way the Flame storyline went in Marvel Spider-Man 2, Insomniac has plans, bigger plans for both Cletus and Carnage down the road, and this is confirmation for me here that this is definitely something that Insomniac would like to pursue down the line, and they would really like to take the time to flush him out and really do justice to the story of Carnage in perhaps, a DLC for Spider-Man 2, or perhaps even in Marvel Spider-Man 3. Perhaps it is another game where a symbiote takes a major role in the game. To be honest, I was not expecting to see Carnage pop up at all in Spider-Man 2 as I was playing through it. I really didn't think it was going to happen, and I definitely didn't think it was going to happen in that Flame quest chain. So when it did, I gotta say, that was probably the biggest shock for me in this entire game, or at least the most surprising reveal. It got me out of my seat and got me, it was a very exciting reveal, to say the least, and it is definitely really promising to hear that Insomniac has plans for Carnage down the road. Now, the other thing I want to talk about that caused a lot of conversation within the community over the past week or so, and something that I want to provide our thoughts on, and that is this next question where it says, you said earlier you basically knew right away that you wanted playable Venom. Does that also apply to ending this game with Miles as the main Spider-Man from now on? And Morris says, it always felt very natural, and I think we all collectively thought it would happen. To me, it shows a great deal of evolution from Miles. At the beginning of the game, we see him struggling to figure out what he wants to do with his life. By the end, we had Miles carrying the burden of saving the city and also carrying Pete when Pete wasn't strong enough to carry himself at various points. That's what's been so cool about writing a story about two Spider-Men. They're both strong, and one of them can be strong when the other is not. By the end, Miles is more confident, and he's like, yeah, I got this. How much worse can things get after what we just went through? And Arfman adds, to echo what Brittany said, the idea of a two Spider-Man story was always really essential to this game. I think pretty early on we knew that we wanted to have that moment of handing the reins over. And as we developed it, as we started to lay down more track leading up to that moment, it just felt more and more right. I think it was John who wrote that scene in Aunt May's garage, and it's one of my favorite scenes. The way that Miles intuits exactly what Pete is thinking and stops him from stumbling through trying to hand over the mask. Miles going, I got this, bro. It's such a great moment between the two of them, and it felt like such a natural conclusion. I'm not sure when specifically we decided to do that, but it always felt like the only way the game could end. Now, a lot of people since this interview came out and it really hit the mainstream over the past week or so have kind of taken this as a sort of confirmation that Peter is going to be replaced in this universe and Miles will be taking over and they're going to write Peter out of this universe, or they're going to kill him off or something like that. And I gotta say, reading these answers, that's not how I took this. And if you guys have played the game, it's pretty clear that, Peter wants to live the Peter Parker life for a little bit. He's been living the Spider-Man life for years up to this point, and it has put so much strain on his professional life, on his personal life, on his relationships, all of that, and take a step back because he knows that he can trust Miles to do the job and get it done the right way. He knows Miles can be who the city needs. There is nothing from this answer from either Morris or Arfman that confirm that Peter Parker will be replaced as Spider-Man in an upcoming game. That just doesn't make any sense. There's probably a very good likelihood going into Spider-Man 3 that Peter will be on the sidelines to start because he wants to live that life, but I would expect him to be pulled right back into the story pretty damn quickly, especially when we have Green Goblin knocking on the door in Spider-Man 3, and we know how important that villain is to the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. If you guys honestly believe that Peter is just going to be killed off immediately, or that he's just going to be completely replaced by Miles, honestly, it's a little delusional to think that. I don't think there's any chance of that happening. Now, of course, throughout the events of Spider-Man 3, maybe they do kill him off, or maybe he does take more of a backseat role, but to say that he is being completely replaced by Miles is just, kind of a big stretch at this point in time. And yeah, he is right now, currently, and probably just temporarily taking over as the, quote, main Spider-Man for the Insomniac verse, but we really can't speak on that until we see how the events of Spider-Man 3 unfold. This could have just been a nice little ending for Peter in Spider-Man 2, and we have no idea what is going to transpire between the events of Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, because I imagine there will be another sizable time jump between those two games. Honestly, I know a lot of people are freaking out about this. I don't think this is anything worth worrying about. I don't think Peter is being completely replaced. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think this is just them speaking on giving Peter the opportunity to live that Peter Parker lifestyle that we never really get to see Peter have the opportunity to do. And it is one thing that I really appreciated about this story was they found a way to reach a natural conclusion where we could see Peter have some sort of happy ending with MJ and have a sort of personal life, because we never get that out of a Spider-Man story. Peter is always beaten down and battered, so it was a nice change of pace to see more of a happy ending for Peter, and it's nice that Miles is there to take on the burden, and it's something that he wants to do. I really loved the ending for this game, and honestly, this hysteria about Peter being replaced I think is a little bit ridiculous, and honestly, nothing from this answer, from this interview, provides any sort of evidence that he's going to be permanently replaced. I think people just kind of latched on to this and ran with it. But with the impending Green Goblin, I just don't see that happening. I don't see how they're going to find a way to keep Peter out of that story, short of pretty much killing him off pretty immediately in the game. So guys, let us know your thoughts on all of the information about Carnage. How do you think Carnage will be handled going forward? Do you think it will be in a DLC for this game? Do you think it will be a main enemy or villain in Spider-Man 3? Do you think we could see him show up in a Venom standalone game if that does indeed happen? And let us know your thoughts on this whole Peter Parker and Miles Morales Spider-Man thing. Do you really think Peter is going to be replaced by Miles, or do you think this is just a temporary thing like we do? Like I said, I'm pretty confident in the direction that this is headed, so definitely let us know your thoughts down below. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for me for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.